Good morning and welcome to St John's Every Day. We've heard such a lot about the empty tomb in the last week, but now the scene moves away from Jerusalem. Two of the wider circle of disciples are trudging westwards towards the village of Emmaus, some 7 miles. It's about as far as walking from Clayton to Keighley. It's late afternoon and they're emotionally drained and somewhat discouraged as they think about the events of the last few days. And suddenly they're aware that someone has caught up with them. Well, that's how it appears to them. And this is what it says in verse 13 of chapter 24. Now on that same day, 2 of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. And while they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. They were kept from recognising him, prevented from recognising him. Why? Yet 15 verses later, it says their eyes were opened and they did recognise him. So something important must have happened between first encountering Jesus and then being able to recognise him. What could that have been? Well, in verse 17, it says, "And Jesus said to them, 'What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?' And they stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, 'Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who doesn't know the things that have taken place there in these days?' You can imagine Jesus giving a wry smile, and he said, 'What things?' So they told him. And then wistfully they added, 'But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel.' And then Jesus gives them a masterclass on messianic prophecy, right from Moses right through to the Old Testament prophets. They needed to hear and concentrate on the evidence of what was said about him. Do you think they would have done that if they suddenly realised it was Jesus? They'd be so full of joy and relief, they wouldn't have listened. Later in verse 45, in the upper room, Jesus appears again to his a wider group of disciples and does exactly the same thing, teaching them about the prophecies. Nicky Gumbel from the Alpha Course says, Jesus fulfilled 300 prophecies in all, and 29 major prophecies were actually fulfilled on the day he died. It was essential that these Jewish disciples were utterly convinced that he was the Messiah, a fulfillment of prophecy, so that they could go out to fellow Jews and even when on missions to Gentiles could confront Jewish opposition. Perhaps we too should make sure that we know and believe the facts about the life and the death, the resurrection and ascension of Jesus, so that we're more ready to give an account of what and why we believe. To people who may have no faith, to people of other faiths, and those who are seeking but haven't heard yet. And that's where we come in. Thank you.